let's get straight into it. So, the biggest topic of the weekend, and I'm going to get straight into it. Drake then just dropped For All the Dogs. It was projected to sell over 400K. I think it's going to sell 500K first week. He actually pushed back the date to October 7th, that Friday at 6 a.m. I was expecting it to come out at midnight, but he was like, nah, he's going to drop it at 6 a.m. So the 23 track album consisted of features such as Tizo Touchdown, 21 Savage, SZA Twice, Yeats, J. Cole, Bad Bunny, and a bunch of more artists. Now, the album, my personal top 5 songs on here, obviously I believe that First Person Shooter is the best song on the album with J. Cole, and that song is projected to be number one. And if it does go number one, this will be Drake's 13th time in which a solo song has entered the number one spot on billboards, which he will be tied with Michael Jackson on having the most solo entry number one songs in history, which is absolutely crazy for Drake because Drake has done so much, and the fact that he is still at the top of the game ever since he literally came up, ever since his first album, Thank Me Now, like it was just crazy. The fact that he's still on top of the game, still following these trends that are coming out, these new artists that are coming out, and he's still on top of each and every rapper that's in the game, and he's just continuing to stay consistent. So like I said, my top 5 songs is First Person Shooter with J. Cole, I Don't Give a F by Yeet, which is actually a good song. That song might end up, for sure it's going to be in the top 10, but that song might eclipse First Person Shooter with him and J. Cole, because that song has been getting a lot of plays. And shout out to Yeet. Yeet then came up, he was literally just on Minions not too long ago, and now he's getting a song with Drake, and that song actually did very, very well. Then my third favorite song on that album was the lead single on that album, 8 a.m. in Charlotte. Fourth is What Will Pluto Do? And fifth was Away From Home. And my personal opinion on this album, obviously, any time someone says that a Drake album is good, no one has said that a Drake album was a bad album. So that's really not saying much. But I feel like this album, yes, it's only came out for 3 days. And that's why I don't like reviewing albums the moment that it does come out, because it doesn't give you enough time to process and fully review the album. It's 23 tracks. There's not enough time for you to review all 23 songs and give your opinion. You got to keep on listening to the album, because there might be a song that you might not like, and now the song that you didn't like at first, now it becomes one of your favorite songs on the album. So I decided to wait a couple of days, give it a couple of listens, see what I like, see what I don't like. So like I said, the Drake album is pretty good, but that's not saying enough. Me personally, I honestly feel like this is one of Drake's lower albums. And here's the thing. You have to look at this Drake album. You have to look at For All the Dogs. Think of it. The main problem with Drake's album, For All the Dogs, you got to think of it like a research paper or any type of paper that you write. You have to have a good intro and you have to have a good outro in any type of album that you do make. If you don't have a good intro song and a good outro song, it's going to feel as though that the album is just thrown together. And I feel as though with this album, Virginia Beach and Polar Opposites, those songs are like subpar Drake. When you compare the intro and outros for classic albums that Drake has came out with Certified Lover Boy, Champagne Poetry, and The Remorse. When you have Take Care, when you have Over My Dead Body and Hate Sleeping Alone. When you have If You're Reading This Is Too Late with Legends and 6 p.m. in New York. When you have Views with Keep the Family Close and Fire and Desire. When you have More Life with Free Smoke and Do Not Disturb. Those are classic albums, and what makes them classic is the fact that you have good intro song and a good outro song. So then all you have to do is just have these songs in the middle that are good, that matches the flow of the whole album. Versus if you have a subpar album with a mediocre, bad, whatever you want to call the intro, Virginia Beach, it's a good song, but it's not quality classic Drake intro type song. Polar Opposites, same thing. It's a good song, but it's not classic Drake outro song. So now you have an album to where now it just feels like the songs are thrown together. And I feel like that was the main thing, and it was kind of disappointing because Drake said that this album was more so going to be the old Drake. And I actually listened to Tried Our Best when it was a leak, and I thought that that was going to be the flow that he was going to have for the entire album. I thought it was just going to be that slow Drake, that old Drake that we were actually getting, but it was actually kind of misleading. That song turned out to be the boring part of the album. It actually turned out to be the boring part of the album, and it was just like, it didn't feel like the song fit. And that's what happens when you have a bad intro and a bad outro. And I'm not saying bad as if the songs itself are bad, but I'm saying it in regards to Drake's standards and what Drake has put out over the years, that where it ranks up, it's not towards the top. So now you have a bunch of songs that are thrown in together just to be thrown in. More Life was kind of the same thing, but the difference between More Life and For All the Dogs is More Life had a very good intro and outro. You still have Do Not Disturb that's still played on TikTok. So even if the theme of the album, the songs are just thrown together, there was so many hard songs in More Life, like Portland, like Teenage Fever, like Passion Fruit, like Lose You. You have all these songs that are thrown in together, but since you have a good intro and since you have a good outro, all the songs that are thrown in together, now it feels more like it fits in the album. Versus when you have Virginia Beach and Polar Opposites, then you have songs like Rich Baby Daddy with Sexy Red and SZA. Then you have Tried Our Best. It doesn't feel like it's put together. It just feels like it's a bunch of just songs that are thrown together. With the I Don't Give a F song with Yeet, that was Yeet's song in my opinion. Yeet was the forefront of that song. Drake didn't feel as though that he fit on the song. Not saying that his verse wasn't bad. A Drake verse is never just bad, but it's never just that classic Drake that we're really just looking for. And where he ranks up with all of these artists in the industry, and not even just in this industry, but in history, you have to hold Drake to a certain standard in regards to when he drops an album. And with this album, is obviously going to sell way more than 450K. It's probably going to sell closer to 500, probably where Travis Scott was. And this is going to be the most that he has sold since Certified Lover Boy, which sold 613K. But then he had dropped Honestly Nevermind, and that album wasn't even that good to me because, I mean, obviously he was trying something that was a dance album, but that wasn't Drake's style to me personally. So with him dropping that, and then he comes back and drops Her Loss with 21 Savage, which turned out to be a very good album, you would think that with him saying on tour that he's bringing back the old Drake, people are going to compare old Drake to old albums that he came out. Your Thank Me Later, your Views, your Take Care, your Nothing Was the Same, all of these albums. When Drake said that we were going to get the old Drake, he said on tour we was going to get the old Drake, people are going to compare old Drake to his older albums. So when he drops For All the Dogs, obviously he's going to be compared to his more classic albums. If You're Reading This, It's Too Late, Take Care, Thank Me Later, all of these albums, Nothing Was the Same. You're going to be compared to your older albums, and if this album For All the Dogs doesn't even compete, which in my opinion it doesn't, they're going to hold you to that accountability. One, because of that, and two, because you say that we have Drake as one of these best artists in the generation, and we put him against people like Kanye and in the top 10 artists of all time. So when you have it like that and your standards are high each and every time that you do drop an album, you're going to be held to that high standard because we know what prime Drake can give us. We know what Drake can give us at any given point in time. So with that in mind, J. Cole was obviously, in my opinion, the best feature. People will probably say that song will get overplayed, which I can see it does get overplayed and it will be overrated. But nonetheless, them two, for the first time, they've came together in over a decade. They finally dropped a song, First Person Shooter, and it did not disappoint. J. Cole was talking about the diss with YB and how it wasn't a diss with YB, and he still wants to get a feature with YB. You can't trust anything that's on the media. Like, he was basically addressing the issue that people on the media was basically putting out about the beef between J. Cole and NBA Youngboy. And he was just addressing that, and J. Cole's just good at what he does. You can't take anything for granted in regards to J. Cole. He's a good lyricist, good rapper, just a good artist, period. My second favorite feature, obviously, I'll say Yeet. The fact that, in my opinion, he's like the second, like, known person, known rapper on the album behind, in my opinion, Tizo Touchdown, because Tizo Touchdown, who's been having a phenomenal year, he mainly got that attention once he got on that album with Utopia, which we will be comparing For All the Dogs and Travis Scott's album Utopia here in a little bit. But going back to what I said about Yee, he's like the second least known person on this album. So the fact that he comes and he delivers a hard verse, now people are going to check out his music. And I just saw earlier before I had started recording that Yeet is now up to 16.9 million monthly listeners on Spotify. So good for Yeet. Third person that I will say is SZA. SZA is obviously having a phenomenal year. She just dropped her album last year, at the end of last year, and she just keeps on carrying that momentum all the way until Travis Scott's album with Utopia and Telekinesis, and then she comes on For All the Dogs, drops the lead single Slime You Out, and then comes back and gets on Rich Baby Daddy. Even though Sexy Red, in my opinion, was the worst feature on the album, Drake and SZA basically saved that song, and it basically made Sexy Red's part tolerable. But Sexy Red, in my opinion, is the worst feature on that song, worst feature on the album. But SZA nonetheless did her thing on that album. For one, getting a number one song with Slime You Out being the lead single, along with 8 a.m. in Charlotte, which Drake had dropped. And then she comes back, which we didn't expect her to, and gets on Rich Baby Daddy with Drake and Sexy Red and delivers another verse. So good for SZA. The next person that I will say is P&D Party Next Door on Members Only. He had a pretty good verse. Everyone that I'm going to basically rank had pretty good verses. I just feel like Drake, in regards to his verse and the songs, like, the songs are more so cool, but there wasn't songs to where, like, oh, this is a classic Drake song versus on his other albums. It's just the whole thing with Nothing Was the Same, If You're Reading This Is Too Late, Views, Take Care. There's classic songs from that album that you can just take, and years from now, you can go back and listen to it. With this, it's like there may be some songs, but in regards to them being just full-on classics, I don't think this is the album that'll give you the full-on classics. So Tizo Touchdown did good. Lil Yachty did good on another late night song. 21 Savage did okay, but I feel like the problem with 21 Savage is the fact that Drake and 21 Savage, I feel as though they did too many songs. They already have a collab album. And I feel like it's starting to get to the point to where that song was more just like a throwaway. And I feel as though, and I really don't want this to happen, 21 Savage just might start to get in that category with Lil Baby and Roddy Ricch in regards to repetitiveness and not coming back with something new, which I do not want to see. But I wouldn't be surprised if people will start to put Lil Baby and 21 Savage in that same category, as well as Roddy Ricch, in regards to them being repetitive. So I feel like that song was more so a throwaway, and that song is hard. The first half of that song is hard, and I feel as though that's the problem with like some Drake songs, like On Her Loss, Hours in Silence. That song has the potential to be a top at least 20 song, but he decided to change the beat. With this song, Calling For You, he changed the beat for 21 Savage, and I feel as though it kind of just messed up the song. Versus if you would have kept that beginning beat, it would have been way better. Bad Bunny, obviously, he's, Latino. He basically ain't do bad. And obviously the last feature, the worst feature, should I say, is Sexy Red. I feel as though that there's no question about that. I literally skipped that song. When I first played that song, it kind of threw me off. I had to skip the song. But then I had replayed it, and the song's not that bad because of the simple fact that Drake and SZA did so good in their verses that it kind of makes Sexy Red's part more tolerable. So, with that in mind, I feel as though this album is going to be a good album for this year, but if we want to rank it amongst Drake albums, which I will get to just here in a little bit, I don't think it's going to rank that good off of the first couple of listens that I have. There's so many classic albums. So many classic albums that Drake has in his catalog, and I just feel like this album alone, it's a good album for this year, but when you want to compare it to the all-time great albums that he has in his discography and his catalog, it just doesn't compare. And like I said earlier, the biggest problem with this album is the intro and the outro. When your intro and your outro is subpar and it's good, but it doesn't compare to your classic albums like your Take Care with Over My Dead Body and Hate Sleeping Alone, like your More Life with Free Smoke and Do Not Disturb, like your Certified Lover Boy with Champagne Poetry and The Remorse, like If You're Reading This Is Too Late with Legend and 6 p.m. in New York. And then you have obviously just Views and Keep the Family Close, Fire and Desire. Hotline Bling was the last song on that album. It's your intros and your outro. If they're good and they're solid, then it's going to mesh everything together. But if you have subpar intro and a subpar outro, or if you have just one of them, it's kind of hard to just make the album better in regards to making it a classic album, instead of making it feel as though you're just throwing all the songs in together. And that's what I feel like is the biggest problem with For All the Dogs. Not saying that it's a bad album. No Drake album, in my opinion, is a bad album. But if you want to have that album, For All the Dogs, towards the top of your list in regards to it being a classic album in Drake's discography, all of the albums that are in his top 5, his top 3, they all have good intros and good outros. Nothing Was the Same, Tuscan Leather, Pound Cake, All Me. Like it intros and outros are good. And like I said earlier, all of the other albums, they're good intros and good outros. So this album isn't a bad album at all. Now, I said earlier, we're going to compare the For All the Dogs album to Travis Scott's Utopia album. And I said this in my podcast, my earlier podcast episodes. I said that Travis Scott's album Utopia was going to be better than For All the Dogs. But I did say that Drake could be that artist because at the time there was no rapper that had the number one spot. That whole year, it's been over a year since a rapper was number one on Billboards. And obviously Doja Cat got Paint the Town Red. And then Drake finally got the number one song with Slime You Out. So Travis Scott couldn't get it. But I did say that Travis Scott's Utopia album was going to be better than For All the Dogs. And it just happens, in my opinion, to still be true. I still feel as though that Utopia is still a better album. And we're going to just compare just song for song. Like, I feel as though the first four songs, you have Virginia Beach versus Hyena. I feel as though Hyena is better. I feel as though Thank God is better than Amen. I still feel as though My Eyes is still better than Calling For You. We'll pull it up right here. No, My Eyes is actually going up against Fear of Heights. I think that is better than Fear of Heights. And I feel as though Modern Jam is better than Calling For You because 21 Savage messed up the song. So right then and there, the first four songs on Utopia is just better. Then it has songs like Schizo. Then it has Telekinesis. Like, it has just good songs. It has I Know. It has Meltdown with Drake. It has songs just there. And I feel as though that it's still a better album. It's still getting played versus this album. People were getting on Drake because the album was mid. It was more people that were getting on Drake than it is with Travis Scott. And this is Travis Scott's, in my opinion, worst album. But if we just compare it, I just feel as though it's better. Like I said, My Eyes, Hyena, Thank God, Modern Jam, I Know. It's just song for song. Even though this Drake album has 23 songs, it still doesn't just match up against Travis Scott's album. And I feel as though Travis Scott's album is just a better album than For All the Dogs. But that doesn't mean to say that Drake's album is bad. Drake doesn't have a bad album. It's just when you compare it against Travis Scott's album, who sold 500K with bundles and without bundles. Obviously, Drake's not selling bundles. He's not selling merch. He's not selling vinyls. He's not doing all of that. But nonetheless, it's still 500K. So it's still the 500K, and people are still listening to the Travis Scott album. Not saying that people aren't going to listen to this Drake album, but I feel as though that Travis Scott did a better job at his album, making his album and the theme of the album, and it goes together more than For All the Dogs. Now, I'm going to rank where For All the Dogs matches up against his whole discography, should I say. I want to see where it ranks up. And I think I have probably the best list. And I just had to go based off of classic albums, the time, and just the songs that it has. So this is me ranking all of Drake's discography, all of his albums, everything. Now, see, I didn't count What a Time to Be Alive. I didn't count Her Loss because those are collab albums. We're just talking about straight Drake albums. So this is my list. So the best album, in my opinion, I have Views. Number 2, I have Take Care. Number 3, I have If You're Reading This Is Too Late. Number 4, I have Nothing Was the Same. Number 5, I have Thank Me Later. Number 6, I have Scorpion. Number 7, I have More Life. Number 8, I have Certified Lover Boy. Number 9, I have So Far Gone. Number 10, I have For All the Dogs. Number 11, I have Dark Lane Demo Tapes. And number 12, I have Honestly Nevermind. So based off this album only being out for a couple of days, I have it automatically better than Honestly Nevermind and Dark Lane Demo Tapes. Obviously, it's not better than Certified Lover Boy. Certified Lover Boy sold 613K. Obviously, it sold way more than what it is For All the Dogs. One, because it was the whole Kanye beef that was going on. But overall, as an album, has a better intro, has a better outro, and it has better songs in there. That's just number 1. Views is obviously better. It's a classic album, has way better songs. Hotline Bling, Too Good, Controller, Keep the Family Close, You With Me, Nine, Feel No Ways, Resting Road Flows, Redemption. It has so many classic songs on that album. Take Care, obviously, Over My Dead Body, Headlines. It just has just so many songs. The Motto, The Ride, all these songs on Take Care. Every single one of those songs, and I know I didn't name all of those songs, but you can get the idea. There's so many classic songs on that album. Underground Kings is just so many good songs on their album. If you're reading this, it's too late. One of his best mixtapes. One of his best mixtapes with 10 Bands, Legend, Six God, Energy, Know Yourself, 6 p.m. in New York, Preach with Party Next Door. It's so many good songs on that album. I just can't put it over that. Scorpion, even though I feel as though Scorpion to me is the least listened album in my opinion, but you have to respect the songs that it does have with Sandra's Road, God's Plan, Nonstop, Survival, March 14th, Nice for What. It's so many songs on that album. So it's just, even though I feel as though I listen to it the least and I really don't go back to that album, you have to respect the songs that it does have. And that's fact. So I just can't put it over that album. I can't put it over Thank Me Later. Just can't. I just can't. Fireworks. It's just with Alicia Keys, it has so many songs on there. Find Your Love, Over. So many songs on there. Light Up with Jay-Z. Fancy with T.I. Swiss Beats is songs on there. Thank Me Now is just a good album. More Life, how I was saying earlier, More Life has a better intro, a way better intro song in Freak Smoke versus Virginia Beach, and a way better outro song with Do Not Disturb versus Polar Opposites. Then it has Portland, Passion Fruit, Teenage Fever, has so many songs on that album. Lose You is just so many songs on that album. Better songs, better classics than For All the Dogs. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with For All the Dogs not having classic songs. But if we want to rank that album being one of his best albums, you have to match it up against these albums that have classics. You just have to. One of his better albums. You have to just go song for song and just go from there. So I feel as though this is personally opinionated. Obviously, this is his best discography. Now, I want to show y'all, for those of y'all that have not seen the whole situation with Drake and Joe Budden, I want y'all to listen to what Joe Budden had to say about his album and reacting to the album and basically Drake's influence. I just want y'all to listen to it. And I'm going to put it on the screen for y'all.
This is like Yachty rapping. This is like he rapping for the children. And that's my, yo dog, I had to look up how old this nigga was when I finished listening to the album. Mm-hmm. You are 36. Your birthday is in 20 days. I Googled that too. You only 37 years old. Get the fuck away from some of these younger niggas and stop fucking these 25-year-olds. I'm listening to the album. The 25-year-olds, you're a 37-year-old billionaire. But that's what I'm loving about Cole. Like, my shit is happening in reverse. Like, with Cole, he used to rap about kid shit. I'm a grown-ass, like, real Jersey City nigga. I don't want to hear how you lost your fucking virginity. And then he started to grow up. Mm-hmm. And then the rapping sounded like an adult rapping. I want to hear adult Drake rapping for adult people.
No, you're not going to hear that.
That's my issue with him.
Okay, so Drake responded to Joe Budden, and he was like, you have failed at music. You left it behind to do what you're doing in this clip, because this is what actually pays the bills. For any artist watching, just remember, you are watching a failure give their opinion on the idea of a recipe for success. A quitter gives their opinion on how to achieve longevity. You switch careers because the things that popped into your brain had broke your living check to check, and raps you write had 450 men showing up to your shows in dusty jeans to screw up their mute music 29 and pretending you are the GOAT. Please, to any artist that's doing what they feel is right, don't let these opinions affect your mindset after the fact. This guy is the poster child of frustration and surrendering. You retired and we never hung up your jersey. We don't even remember your number. We know you're doing this. You withdrew from rap not because you accomplished all you need to, it's because it wasn't working for you. I never want anybody in this generation to think that the whole everybody's entitled to their opinion is a real thing. This is a man projecting his own self-hate, and the fact I did and continue to do everything he wanted to do for himself. If you need to put it in simpler terms, I own a 676. I said 676. 767. He owns a modest house in the 973 and flies first class on special occasions. So here's my whole thing on what Joe Budden said. First off, no one really knows who Joe Budden is, bro. Especially rapping. I don't even know one song. I literally had to scroll and figure out what songs that Joe Budden has. And he only has the one Pump It Up song. You can't compare your career to basically just someone who has a bigger catalog, more people listen to him. And so what if Drake is 37 years old? When you're that age, obviously you want to influence your kids with your music. If you influence your kids, their parents are going to hear the music, and it's just going to be a full circle effect. They're going to listen to the song too. So the fact that Drake is influencing these kids and he's in the game for almost 20 plus years, that's actually incredible. It's not a bad thing that he's influencing these kids and kids are listening to him, and it's not for 37, 38-year-olds. Not everything is going to attract everybody. You can be a rapper and only have songs that are strictly made for kids. You can be a rapper that only makes songs that are strictly for adults. It just all comes with time. You can make songs that are originally for kids, and then once they grow up, their songs are influenced to the kids below them. So it just all comes just full circle. You want to, as your artist, you want to have your music influence the kids. You want kids to listen to your music because the kids are going to go back to their parents and they're going to show the parents their song and listen to the song around their parents. And if the parents like it, they're going to be like, who is this person? Well, if it's Drake, now Drake then got the parents to listen to the song. And with his career clearly not going the way that it should with him in music, and he's just talking about people and his influence, and he should be influencing people his age. You can't talk about someone influencing a certain age when that's what you were supposed to do as a whole artist when you were rapping, and now you had a very short career and now you're on a podcast. It ain't nothing personal, but that's the reality of it. So what if Drake music is so-called influencing the kids and he only makes songs for the kids? Okay, that can be cool, but the kids can go and bring it to the parents, and the parents listen to the song and be like, what's that song? That song is hard. And now the song is with the parents, and the parents listen to that song and they think that it's hard. Now that's a download. Now more people are listening to him. Obviously it doesn't make sense. You really think all the views that Drake has on his song are strictly kids? Most of them are kids, but I'm pretty sure there's a percent that are parents that still listen to Drake. Versus Joe Budden. Joe Budden doesn't even have one song, that Pump It Up song. Other than that, he don't have nothing, and he had a very short career. So Drake is 100% right. Obviously, he's on a podcast, so he's going to have his own opinion. Not saying that he's not going to have his own opinion on the album. Okay, cool. But if you're a rapper and your career didn't go the way that it was supposed to go or how you wanted it to go, you can't go and talk about another rapper and saying that he only influences another group or a small percentage of a group and it just basically hate on what he's doing. Because I'm pretty sure that you couldn't do that, and clearly Joe Budden couldn't do that. Clearly Joe Budden couldn't influence a whole group. Because we don't even think about Joe Budden as a rapper. When we first think of Joe Budden, people don't even know who Joe Budden is. More people know who Drake is versus Joe Budden. And the people that do know Joe Budden basically off his podcast, not as a artist. No one will never know who Joe Budden is as an artist, as far as I'm concerned. Who's coming out that womb, they're not finna be, ain't no parent finna be like, let's listen to this Joe Budden. Don't no one do that. But Drake got these kids coming out the womb listening to him because he's been in the game for so long. He's been in the game for almost 20 plus years. He's getting that influence. And you want to know who's passing down that influence? The parents. And the parents are older. So it's just a full circle effect on who is listening to Drake. Because if that wasn't the case, Drake wouldn't be where he is now in regards to people that are listening to his music. It's a whole circle effect. The kids bring it to the parents, and the parents are going to keep on bringing it to the kids. It's a full circle. If they like the song, then it's just a full circle. Drake has so many songs. And how many songs does Joe Budden have last time I'm concerned? One. And I'm just giving him one. Because Pump It Up, I guess. But people don't know Joe Budden as no rapper. They know him because of podcasting. And people, I'm pretty sure, still don't know who Joe Budden is. Last time I checked, people know who Drake is. Everybody know who Drake is. So you can't go and hate on someone that's just doing better because he only influences a certain group, when that certain group is bringing it to the older group, and it's just a full circle effect. And that's exactly what it is. So Drake handled it very much appropriately towards him. Very much appropriately towards him. Overall, what I would say is, do I think that this album is better than Utopia? No. I still don't think that it's better than Utopia. I'm going to continue to give it more listens. Y'all continue to give it more listens. Keep in mind that Drake is still going to be that person. Just keep that in mind. Drake is not falling off. Will never fall off until he retires. So it's just going to be just Drake. So with that in mind, like I said, my top 5 songs: First Person Shooter, I Don't Give a F with Ye, 8 a.m. in Charlotte, What Would Pluto Do, and Away From Home, with my honorable mention being 769 Santa. So those are my top songs. Please leave down below what y'all believe the top songs are for you, y'all top 5 songs. So yeah, with that in mind, let's move on. Woo, that